Okay. I think we should just wait around for a bit, right?
All right, so we are live and namaste, Debbie, and welcome to the ODHR Experience conversations that we have every Thursday with HR professionals, CEOs, and CXOs who are working in the corporate sector.
Mhm.
And we basically discuss insights related to learning, more specifically about how to create a culture of learning, because we truly believe that a culture of learning builds a culture of trust and creates employee engagement.
For sure.
And we are delighted to have a senior HR professional like you with us today, a person of Indian origin who's now based in Hong Kong. So thank you for making the time and joining us today.
Thank you, Jerry. So great to be here. It's always lovely to share my journey and the kind of things we're doing in the L&D space,
Right.
uh, and talk to people who are passionate about driving a learning culture.
Right. And that's why we have created a rating called the Great Organizations Affirm Learning, or goal ratings, as we're calling it. That your primary goal should be to create a learning organization where everyone from the top to the bottom learns, right? Because in most organizations I've seen, it's mostly the middle management who are sent for training programs, or the hypots and hypers, which actually kind of completely defies the norm, because the whole idea of learning should be that whether it's the junior most intern who's just joined, or the CEO and the MD, they all have to go through the learning curve, because the entire concept of enlightenment basically means that I don't know much and anything, right? Which means I continuously learn and continuously improve. And yet that culture is not seen in many organizations around the world, more so in parts of Asia, because we don't kind of treat learning as an integral part of the business model. Learning is more seen like a tick in the checkbox. But anyway, before going on to that, you are a HR professional and you're also a musician
I
who's
am.
composing her own songs, and you're kind of now selling them online also. So
Mhm.
may I request you to start with a song, so that all the audience who joined us and listening into us can listen to the talented Debbie Mannas.
Thank you. How many have joined us? Do you want to kick off
Yes,
already?
please. Yeah, kick off.
I'm happy to. So yes, I'm one of those lucky people who gets to do two things that I really love doing, both in my work and outside my work, and that's humans and learning and human behavior, and my music. So I wrote this song. It was from my first album by the same title. It's called Inspired, and this song is for all the people who, well, it's for that special person that we wake up to, but it's for all those who inspire us and make us grow, coincidentally make us learn.
Great. Please go ahead. Yeah.
My thoughts on waking are of you, 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 no question in my mind. I need you, 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 your love, your grace, your touch. I can't remember when it meant so much. These precious moments with you, you, you make me fall even deeper in love with you. If life's not fair when I'm alone, I think of you and I am home. I close my eyes and there you are again. Babe, you inspire me, you desire me. You set me on fire, you drive me, oh, you crave me. You make me reach higher. And I love how you make me grow. And I love how you make me feel. And I love feeling this alive. I feel inspired. Dark skies, oh bright ones, I'm with you, you, you. Daylight when night comes, I'm with you, you, you. Doesn't matter near or far, my place is always where you are. My heart's a locket where you'll stay all day. Baby, you inspire me, you desire me. You set me on fire, oh, you drive me and you crave me. You make me reach higher, and I love how you make me grow, and I love how you make me feel, and I love feeling this alive. I feel inspired. Distance may breed turbulence, but memories of your deep gaze will sustain me. And when I look into the future, I see you looking back at me, and I'm at peace. You make me feel peace. This was done live in the studio by my band at the time called Soul Sessions. So real instruments. Baby, you inspire me, you desire me. You set me on fire, oh, you drive me and you crave me. You make me reach higher, and I love how you make me grow, and I love how you make me feel, and I love feeling this alive. I feel inspired. Baby, you inspire me, you desire me. You set me on fire, oh, you drive me and you crave me. You make me reach higher, and I love how you make me grow, and I love how you make me feel, and I love feeling this alive. I feel inspired.
Brilliant, wonderful, excellent. Oh,
Thank
and we
you.
would have asked for an encore, but
We
due
need
to
to move
paucity of
on.
time, we'll move ahead. And but the first question, which is, tell us more about your life story, your journey of life. Right from your childhood to now, and how you balance the HR work that you do and the music work that you do.
How much time do we have?
We have an hour overall.
Uh, my life story. Okay, I was always. I've written a song about it because I never felt I belonged anywhere.
Right,
My background is, of course, a mixed race,
right,
so which is not always the best thing to be in a country like India, right? But it meant that I felt discrimination from very young, but it also meant I became very strong because of it and very competitive. So I've written a song. It's called "Never Belonged." You can feel free to listen to it. I was always very curious about humans and how they thought and acted. Always,
right.
my dad would have wanted me to be an engineer because he was one,
Hmm.
but I just gravitated towards humans and psychology.
Right,
So that's what I did in college, and music. Grew up with all kinds of influences, and I always knew I wanted to write my own songs,
hmm,
but I could never read or write music, and I still can't. So I hear it in my head, and now because of technology, I started writing about 20, 25 years ago.
hmm.
Um, because of technology, I'm able to record whatever's in my head, and I have it, and I work with really brilliant people. So coincidentally, I did psychology, and I was lucky to uh, go into a profession that uses psychology and the behavioral sciences, um, and so I use that, and I use my music, and I feel very privileged and really lucky. I started life in a Tata company, Tata Elixir, in Bangalore.
Hmm.
Couple of years there, and I still have good friends there. And then I moved to Hong Kong and found in Hong Kong I've had all of one, two, three, four jobs over these last 30 years. So that's my life story.
And where are you working currently?
I'm with a fantastic company that I really love. I feel like I've sort of come home. Sun Life.
Right, very
It's
nice.
it's an insurance company based
I know.
headquartered in Canada.
Birla Sun Life is my client in India,
That's
and
really great. Yes.
I have done work with Tata Elxsi also. I've coached and trained all their senior BD team globally for what we call as trust-based selling. Don't be a seller, be a trusted counselor,
Yes.
right? So that's what we did with the Tata Elxsi team over 2017 and 18. So happy to know that you worked with them. That's a brilliant organization.
It is. It was a
Yes.
really good foray into the HR world actually, because the Tata companies have really great HR standards, and so I guess that was my insight into joining a company with such evolved HR practices.
Debbie, there was something which you said when you were talking about your life story, which kind of really hit me hard because that's something which I speak about also, that we need to unbelong, right? Because I'm from a place called Goa. And I always joke with my friends who are from Kerala that they always say that, this is God's own country. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But you know where God goes for a holiday? He comes to
Go.
Goa, right? So, so that's like a joke I've been using with my friends from Kerala for a long time. But you spoke something very candidly about discrimination, right? And then you said we need to unbelong. And I always say that, I don't like calling myself a Goan or an Indian because we need to be human beings first.
Yes.
Then whatever labels and tags that you want to put on us, right?
Yes.
And in a feudal country like India, we are not only, um,
Going in the other direction.
communal about religion. We're also communal about region. We are communal about
Yes.
castes. We are communal about natural resources now. Like, Karnataka or won't give water to
Water. Yeah.
Tamil Nadu and so on, right? So, how did that discrimination affect you in your childhood? And what you said, it's made you stronger. And if you're aware of what is currently happening in India, right?
I've written a song about that, which I'll
The,
sing at the end. It's called
there's
Whoopee.
yeah, and there's absolute polarization. You will see it on Facebook groups,
Yeah.
right? You're this, you're that. I mean, I don't believe in any religion. I'm completely agnostic as far as religion and God is concerned. I don't believe. But yet, when you're called a rice bag convert, because people think that people from Goa converted because they were promised bags of rice without knowing the struggle and the fight that they went through 300 years before the British came, fighting the Portuguese because they didn't want to convert. And I come from one of those clans. There were 16 clans where all the men folk were killed and then buried in a well. Right, this was in the 1550s, and most of the chaps who talk all this nonsense don't know about it. So I want you to share what are your thoughts about this discrimination that you faced, and how that affected you in your childhood to make you stronger.
People would say, well, we look different. That was one thing. And then people would say things like, go back home. And my family never ever said things like, I'm going to go home to England and stuff like that, right?
Right,
My dad purposely was agnostic towards any religion or caste. Or we had people, his two best friends were Muslim and Hindu,
right,
trooping through our house. My mom worked for Oxfam. We had BBC journalists. We had everybody from the whole world
right,
trooping through our house, right? Um, and then to hear yourself being treated differently. I had a really good Brahmin friend one time, and then I visited her. Her mom wouldn't let me in the kitchen. I didn't even know. I walked into the kitchen. Apparently, she disinfected the whole kitchen after I left. And then there's the subtle nuances when you're in school that you're treated differently. Discrimination is um,
embedded,
yeah, and it's so subtle. You feel you know it, but
right,
you know when you're treated differently, but you can't
right,
put a finger on it.
right,
To put a finger on it, you would, things have to be completely out there in the open and violent.
right,
But it it hones you in a way that you decide that you are not going to be a victim. And so from very small, I didn't even realize that these were the ideas forming in my head. I just decided I'm not going to be a victim
And
of
where
the
were you? Where were
violence.
you
I
raised,
will
Debbie?
compete. Bangalore.
In Bangalore.
Mhm.
Which school were you in?
I started my school life kindergarten in St. Francis Xavier's and then
Okay.
moved in middle school to St. Charles, which was, we moved home. So it was just behind
Okay.
where we
So
lived.
I'm a Xavierite throughout school, college, management, right? Dyed in the wool
Bangalore?
Xavierite. St. Xavier's, Bombay.
Ah.
School and college, yeah.
Well, and then
So,
I went to JNC, Jyoti Nivas, which was also part of the Xavier's.
right.
Um,
Excellent. I'm just going to pull up a small thought that is in our book. This is what we call as the Mojo Inspirator Moodles. That's the self-help book that we have created, which actually talks about the principles of humanity. And what we put in this creative is we as humans are divided. This division of humanity is rooted in the paradigm of belonging to a sect, a caste, a creed, a breed, a gender, a religion, a region, a place, a race, a community, a language, a border, a syncretic culture, a pseudo society and nation. We must unbelong. Humanity is one community, one sky, one creed, one race, one society, one world. We must value and celebrate oneness. I don't know if you've been reading some of my posts. There's this young girl called Disha Ravi who has been arrested and imprisoned because they say that she planned the toolkit which Greta Thunberg and others used against the Indian government. And suddenly, the young people, the young leaders in our state who should have been told to be a voice and stand up and speak out are being actually told by parents not to stand up and speak out, because chances of them getting arrested are also high, because that is the kind of fear psychosis which the
yes.
state has deliberately created in India. Because, like I said, discrimination is happening at an all-time high right now. And then in companies and businesses, we celebrate something called diversity and inclusion. And
I chair us, and it's under my mandate.
very nice,
And it's
excellent.
DE&I now. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right. And around a few years ago, I was told by the CEO of a tech company. Yeah, if you do a net search, you'll get it, but I won't name the company or the person on this public forum. A tech company where I was told to coach the HR head because she had a lot of discriminating thoughts against people from the Islamic community and people from the LGBTQ community. And after doing all the coaching, she tried to kind of, portray behaviors like she has changed and transformed. But in 2018 or 19, she got very nasty with the boy from the LGBTQ community. And she said something very rude and abusive towards him, and he went and complained. And I
Mhm.
was very happy that the organization acted on this and they fired her on the spot. And this is the HR head, the custodian of diversity and inclusion. Do you think diversity and inclusion is being practiced in the right way in most organizations? What are your thoughts and insights on that?
I think I think everybody will go to their grave swearing that they are unbiased and that they are completely non-judgmental and totally accepting of everybody, and everybody will go to their grave as complete liars
Right,
because none of us are, right. We all have deep-rooted biases. Um, I think there are organizations that try. I think and I know quite a few, and ours is one of them, that really believe in this, but it's not equally distributed everywhere.
hmm,
I have witnessed, not with Sun Life, but with past organizations, some really deep-rooted biases, and particularly against women, against minorities, um, spoken. So I don't think biases are unconscious. I think they're conscious, and in Asia, I think they are purposely they are perpetuated because
right,
it fits the status quo, right? So there's a lot of work to be done in this area. Uh, there's hope because governments are acting and they realize that you cannot have innovation with homogenous teams.
right,
You can't
absolutely,
think from the client perspective. So there's a business case, but we've got to do it because it's the right thing to do.
true,
Um, so you know, it's we need champions. We
right,
need DE&I champions. We need people who are really passionate and truly believe and understand that we too are flawed, you know. And then there's constant self-talk to just cut through some of our biases and give people a chance too, right? So, there's a lot of work to be done.
Very nice.
But
I
but I
started.
wanted to go back to my song "Never Belonged," and if I'd known that you were going to show me the unbelonging, I would have
Yes.
done that song
No,
because
and feel free to do it if you want to do it right now.
um, well, one of my song ends with "I walked away happier for that,"
Right.
because I decided that it's far more liberating to not belong, to be a
Absolutely.
global citizen, to not
Absolutely.
be pressurized by people who would have you act and think like them
True.
or otherwise discard you.
True.
That leaves you immense room for reinvention and
and
everything.
and that's a conscious effort for a paradigm shift, right? Because you need to do it consciously as an individual, because like I always say in our book Mojo Inspirator, Debbie, now that you're speaking about this, we talk about the what I call as the E3 entrapment. The first E is education. Education pretty much puts us into a trap, puts us into a box. It does not liberate our mind. It makes us rote study and rote memorize, and then think that just getting a fancy percentage means that you're educated, which is absolutely bizarre and completely untrue. The second entrapment is the experiences, because we are not just products of our own experiences, we are the products of the experiences of several grown-ups who influence us through our childhood, our family, our community, and that's how the biases form, the nature and the nurture which you get in your culture. And then of course, as human beings, you have the third element which most animals don't have, that yes, we are all products of nature and nurture, but as human beings we can exercise choice to change and change our mindsets, right? Change our paradigms. And the third E entrapment is entitlement, right? And when you spoke about how things have to be working in diversity and inclusion, where you have a prevention of sexual harassment policy, and India has one of the most strictest policies, right? Because men have not been treating women properly.
Mhm.
We come from a country where we worship goddesses in the morning, and then we have bad thoughts about women, and even kill our own girl child before she's born, right? So I think that cleansing is required at a very deep level, and that's where the unbelonging concept actually comes in very strongly. And it's what the holy Talmud says, that we do not see the world the way it is, we see the world the way we are.
Yes, of
So
course.
any more thoughts that you have on unbelong before we move to the next question?
I think it's very sad that the rhetoric from many governments is divisive, and increasingly nationalistic, which is actually making victims of the people living in those countries. They blame everybody else, so they say we are a victim. That takes away your
Absolutely.
power.
Absolutely.
You've just given your power to some random people in some other different country.
Very
How
true.
sad is that?
Very true.
It's increasingly divisive. While technology has made it possible for us to get increasingly united. I mean,
True.
here we are
True.
speaking across continents, right?
Absolutely.
Well, not continents, but countries,
Countries,
right?
yes.
Um, or subcontinents. but
Yes.
so my thinking is, we've got to stop doing that because it doesn't serve the people. But of course, democracies are like that. It caters to the lowest, it caters to agenda-based people because you want to be re-elected. And
Very true.
so you know, that's
Yeah.
the state we're in.
So we fuel that entire thing, because the politicians can only play on the mindsets
Absolutely.
of people
So
which are
nothing to do with the country or nationalism or true nationalism would actually understand what needs to be improved so that the lives of people can be improved and that
true.
the
Very true.
country can grow. That's
Very
true
true.
nationalism, and it would listen to good feedback and not silence feedback that would make things better.
Very true.
But here we are.
Yeah.
Lots
You,
of work.
you, most governments don't want to listen to the people,
No, they just want to
because
get re-elected.
they don't realize that democracy means people power. So, coming to the topic of HR and learning, you've been in this field for many years, and we would like to kind of learn from you. The people who are watching us on Facebook Live would love to learn from your insights. What are some of the best practices that you observed in organizations over the years that focus on creating a great learning culture? What are those best practices? Can you share some of those with us?
You rightly pointed out that the focus of learning often is, with middle management and pipeline.
Hmm.
And senior leaders often believe that they've been there, done that, and there's not a lot more to learn.
Right.
But senior leaders can actually participate by unlearning, learning new things. I mean, you're only as good as your next skill, right? The world
Absolutely.
is changing so fast.
Very
Your
true.
skills are going to be obsolete before you know it. So you have to keep pace with that. But the other thing is, you have to you have to influence the organization to move with you. So I can give you a couple of examples, but it would take a while. We've run a couple of programs over the past 3 years where we involved, we gamified. It was a pipeline program, and it
Hmm.
was called, it's an experiential program uh, that had multiple teams across the different businesses across Asia, um, participating in projects that were valuable to the business. And there was a curriculum that accompanied it, but they actually had hands-on work with the projects, and we even gamified that the teams must be diverse because we need to build our female pipeline and work across silos as well. And then we gamified it where the leaders participated in checking in, evaluating the teams, both at the local level and at the regional level. So it ended in a competition where everybody um, presented and so on. And because it was gamified and was a competition, all the leaders participated. So what ended up being 32 people in 8 different teams, four to a team. Is my math right? Yeah. Um, Ended up actually involving about 80 people and in the entire senior leadership. So they understood that, the African saying, right, it takes a village to raise a child. They understood so
Absolutely.
that it's much, you can't tell somebody go learn something. You have to participate in their growth, and tell them that what they're doing is meaningful, and everybody learned from that. So it's not book learning, right?
Right.
You There are many ways that you can learn, and so you have to just keep doing that.
Right. And I'm completely loving what you're saying, because I always joke with my friends in HR and L&D that for you all, most of you all, growth means promotion and the next big raise. But that's not the concept of growth. Growth means, are you maturing over here? Because if you're not continuously learning, you may have grown up that ladder and become the CEO by doing some jiggery pogery with your targets and goals and sales, etc. But your maturity level is still the maturity of that 21-year-old who graduated thinking that he knows it all or she knows it all. And then you see MDs and CEOs with their fancy degrees from some Ivy League institute or the IIMs of India, thinking that they can build the entire vision. And I always tell them that you don't create vision by yourself. You co-create vision, failing which is like sitting in an office in Hong Kong and building a vision and a strategy for farmers in Maharashtra. It just won't work because you don't really know what the pain points of the people in the field are. So if you're not listening to them, your vision is all right. And I'm very happy that you gamified it and you built it into the system, because I think that is what is very important. In most organizations, the entire focus of KRAs or KPIs is uh, is like maybe absolutely focused only on the performance and the results, the key results which have to be delivered, and the focus on growing people is not really built into the KRAs. Do you have any insights to share on that?
Of course, I think you're right. There's often a focus on the financials and
Right,
the customer,
profitability.
and there's a lot of talk around the values and the behaviors expected, but it's actually not built into there's a new term for it, the OKRs, the objectives and key results.
Right.
um, and we're changing that at Sun Life, where we will have OKRs around the learning culture and our values and so on. um, there, there's a book that actually influenced me hugely about 20 years ago, and I created um, a workshop around it. And it's called, let me see, it's by Aubrey C. Daniel, and it's called Bringing Out the Best in People.
Right.
And you know, it's not said so, but I would like to think that he's really the father of gamification because he came out with the performance matrix
Right.
around which anything can, anything you want changed, you have to articulate, and then you have to tell people very clearly what's it to them if they do it.
Very
And
nice.
it's a pinpoint system. So that's
Right.
what games are about, right? It's all about the point system that's cumulative, and there's weighting, and then something happens to people at the end of it. And that's what his whole book is about. And he teaches you step by step how to go about doing it. I call it the picnic concept because it's all about consequences, and that is what gamification is about. You
Right.
do something, you get something, and if you
Absolutely.
don't do something, you will either, well, you know, that's the nick part. So um, positive, immediate and certain are the reinforcers, and negative, immediate and certain should be the deterrents. So you need to have that balance, and it needs to be articulated, and it needs to be transparent. So yeah, huge influence.
Very nice. Bringing out the best in people. What we call is investing in people.
Yeah,
That if
and
you're
it's
not
called. Hmm,
if you're not investing in the growth of people, in the learning, because people don't just come to work to, yes, they come to work to pay the bills, but how the engagement works is if you're really contributing to their learning and growth process. And that's, I think, where learning is directly correlated with growth, right? Because it's not just about growing up the ladder, it's about growing up here and growing up to think better, to innovate better, and to be more productive and more effective. uh, so I'm surely going to get this book, Bringing Out the Best in People. Yeah.
yeah.
There's this thing which most people in HR and CEOs like, because they think that once they get that certification, they've arrived. It's called Great Places to Work. And I've shared the article I wrote with you, of course.
Hmm.
And most great places to work are run by toxic managers. And toxic managers don't make a place a great place to work, right? Because what the Gallup organization study shows you for the past 20 years, and it dropped from 87% to 85% in 2017, which was the 17th year of the study. So the Gallup organization study, the crux of the study is that 85% of people who come to jobs worldwide hate their jobs. Mind the emotion, they hate their jobs. And yet most of these organizations are in great places to work, right? So the nomenclature itself is faulty, right? If you see most of the great places to work and compare them with Glassdoor, you will realize the toxicity of these great places to work. Because the fact of the matter is, no matter how well intended the HR person, the HR professional and the CEO may be, you can't control what managers do with their team members.
That's so
And
true.
that's where we offered the counter process of saying, can we create great organizations which affirm learning? Because HR and CEO can control how and influence how that learning culture percolates to the last mile, right? And yet in many organizations you see HR people, giving you briefs like, Jerry, take them out whitewater rafting, play some games like rappelling with them and teach them how to become better teams. And I'm like, that's like taking a monkey to a L'Oreal salon, right? So yes, the monkey will look like Brad Pitt or Aishwarya Rai, but what happens when the cosmetic makeover dies out, wears out? Then the monkey starts playing monkey games again, and the other games that people play in the organization begin. So do you have any ideas which are which you've implemented to build great teams, to create employee engagement that you could share with our audience?
I think it's you know, we do have in our engagement surveys we have manager effectiveness indices. We have the DE and I indices. We look at things like how safe it is to speak up. We look at things like how managers work with people who are different from themselves. We look at empowerment. Um, you know, uh, and so looking at it as one thing, doing something about it is something else. So making it part of the leader's mandate. We also have things like new managers escalation forums where we ask for feedback on leaders, and we don't, you know, we have recourse. That means if people want have issues, they can go directly to our head office and talk about what's going on with their So so we're very particular about protecting our employees and letting them have a voice if things if they feel that they've not been treated well. So that's one element. But then on the flip side, you also need to reinforce good behaviors and talk about your values, and make things happen for people.
Right.
So we do have a reputation, and that's why I love working in Sun Life. We do have a reputation for being a positive and a kind company, which is why we went through 2020, all the craziness of 2020, and still did quite well. You can see our results. Our people are super highly engaged, so this is great. And 2020 for me was quite um, it was a year that was really hard, lots of hard work, but great work and very fulfilling, from where I was sitting, because there was so many things that we were able to do. So I think it really comes from the top. The tone comes from the top. The tolerance levels of people who don't treat their employees needs to be very low, zero, in fact. And you have to act. You have to seem to be fair and act fairly.
Very true. And the entire concept of fairness and equal opportunity has to be kind of again practiced by the entire organization, right? And most people don't understand the concept of fairness. And I always explain to them that fairness does not mean that we all get equal share of the pie. Fairness basically means that you get as much as the effort that you put in, and the other person gets as much as the effort that they put in, and that fairness has to be measured properly. So because the rewards always come to people who go beyond, not just people who are doing their job. But
So
unfortunately in
there's
many
there's a very beautiful saying: there's no greater injustice than the equal treatment of unequals. So
absolutely,
in
absolutely.
in the corporate world, if you insist on fairness and your idea of fairness is to treat everybody equally, you lose all your good people.
Absolutely, and I'm happy that you're endorsing that, because people misunderstand the concept of fairness and equal opportunity. Yes, we all have the same opportunity, but are we ready to choose to kind of grab that opportunity and go beyond what the job description is, to say that hey, I will do something to make a difference over here? Because if you're not doing that, you don't deserve the rewards, and people don't understand that at appraisal time, right? Because everybody wants the promotion and the raise, and that's when you have the highest demoralization happening in most organizations. Progressive organizations are now moving away from the annual appraisal to weekly reviews. Have you adopted that culture at Sun Life?
We are moving towards more discussions, more feedback, more team feedback, and a process of collecting that.
Very nice.
Yeah. So and we're moving away from the for sure you need to capture something at the end of you know every year, but there's no point in having a discussion about it at the end of the year when it's too late to change track, right? So you need to be having frequent check-ins and build that in to the course of the year. I'm a big fan of articulating what you need to see happen, whether it is in terms of quantitative numbers or mute him, in terms of
JC, we are getting some audio disturbance.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry about that. Debbie, go ahead.
yeah, no, so if you want to see something change or see something sustained, you have to articulate it, whether it's in hard numbers, quantitative, or whether
Absolutely.
it's behavioral, qualitative. And you need to be gutsy about saying what it is you need to see happen, and then you have to put now lay consequences around it, and
Very
then
true.
be prepared to be transparent about what's going to happen to people if they do good things and if they don't.
And I'm so happy that you said that. The key word is being transparent, because most of the time the review mechanism, the feedback mechanism, the appraisal mechanism is not done transparently. And that, I think, creates a lot of angst, anxiety, and stress for many employees. And then the same organization wants the employees to be engaged, right? Uh, so thank you for sharing those insights, because I think those would really help us, because we are creating this entire process called great organizations, affirm learning, and JC is leading the research and has created the entire framework for that, and she's going to share that with you in a little while from now. You spoke about feedback, and I've written a book which is called The Ninth Habit. It is my tribute to Dr. Stephen Covey, who is one of the persons I really believe in as far as the learning ecosystem is created. Because for him, learning was not just a profession or a
He had
or
seven
writing a book.
habits. Did it grow to nine?
Seven. No, so he wrote the seven habits and the eighth habit, and
Oh,
then I had happened to meet him in 2006 in Bangalore, and I joked with him that I'm going to write the ninth habit now. And he said, "Do you have any feedback?"
no, cannot. Yeah, I
Yes.
would say.
Without learning that, to give feedback, you also need to be ready to take feedback. So what I do in workshops, Debbie, is, and I'll share this with you, I do something called the hot seat, where along with the leaders, where we work with them to say, you'll be in the hot seat, and all the people working with you will give you feedback, and they'll do it candidly, because you assured them that there's going to be no retribution. And then you want to kind of take this culture into the organization, not just in the offsite, but into the organization going forward. And that's where people have seen that, when you create that culture of feedback, you create that culture of trust, then the learning curve also improves. And I think it's all related to learning again, and that's why feedback is going to be an essential part of the great organizations affirm learning. Because if you're not getting feedback, how would you measure what you need to improve? Because your measure is people telling you what you need to improve. It's not about you knowing it, because it's the Johari window at work. you know I mean, you're a trained psychologist, so know how the process works, right? So we have JC who's going to share about great organizations that affirm learning ratings with you. But before that, let's have another song from you.
Okay, are you sure? Do we?
Yes, of course, please go ahead.
Uh, okay. Let me just think. Yeah. Need to find this. So this song is something, my son does not like it, and he says it's overdone, but I don't care, because I actually love it. I think it's a super meaningful song, and it's for anyone who has dreams and want to make those dreams a reality. So it's from The Greatest Showman. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you.
I close my eyes and I can see a world that's waiting up for me, that I call my own. Through the dark, through the door, through where no one's been before, but it feels like home. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say I've lost my mind. I don't care if they call me crazy. We can live in a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, the vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. Oh, a million dreams for the world we're gonna make. There's a house we can build. Every room inside is filled with things from far away. special things I compile, each one there to make you smile on a rainy day. They can say it all sounds crazy. They can say we've lost our minds. See, I don't care if they call me crazy. Run away to a world that we design. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. However big, however small, let me be a part of it all. Share your dreams with me. You may be right, you may be wrong, but I wanna bring you along to the world I see, to the world I close my eyes to see. I close my eyes to see. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. A million dreams for the world we're gonna make. For the world we're gonna make.
Bravo, brilliant and beautiful. And thank you for that song, because that song is actually, we have a group called the Magnificent Seven. I'll share the video with you on WhatsApp, and it's based on a book of book that we have in the Mojo Inspirator series, which is called Karishma, the Miracle. And the premise of the book is that in life, we as human beings all break at some point in many. But when we break, do we choose to give up and break down? Or do we choose to persevere and break through? So these are all breakthrough stories. And people who are not just physically broken, but broken emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and even morally, right? And what we do is we go into offsite events and annual gatherings of companies and do the talk. So it's a oratory experience with a little bit of humor built into the talks. And the humor is not about some stand-up comic or some crass jokes. The humor is about laughing at our own situation, right? And the Magnificent Seven also teaches you diversity and inclusion, because we have a person from the LGBTQ community in it, right? A boy who's a homosexual, Harish Iyer. And there's a person from the Hijra community called Abina Ahir. And that they are all human beings too, so don't discriminate them, right? Don't discriminate against them. So I will share that with you offline, and maybe we can do something on that, because we're planning to do a B2C event now, which is a public event, so that more people can benefit from that and not just people working in the corporate gatherings. So with that, I'll hand you over to JC is our researcher and senior research professional. She's from Tangram, which is a research firm founded by her and Avinash Mesquita, who are based in Bombay. And they put the entire framework for great organizations affirm learning ratings. So over to you, JC.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. That was lovely, Debbie. Thank you so much. Thank
You.
you. That was really nice. So I joined in at the right time when you were talking about qualitative and quantitative, right? That is the whole premise about this goal ratings that we are planning, is to have both of these evaluation, both the qualitative and the quantitative part. So we would have that. And what I wanted to start off with you was to know what are the key parameters that we need to keep in mind when we are evaluating a organization that is favorable towards learning. What is it that we should not ever miss, Gayatri? Any key thoughts?
This is a trick question.
Right.
I think that's like the big secret that everyone's trying to figure out, right? Because um, you know, people who don't actually want to describe change will go by things like, learning hours and percentage of people, and that's like at a very fun foundational level. You do have to have what we measure, especially our experiential programs around, is can we use the learning? We should have, was there behavioral change? We should have a feedback before and after loop with of both. We were talking about feedback earlier. Colleagues
Hmm.
and managers saying, what changed, how it was applied. Um, we do have NPS. Net promoter scores of the people who
Yeah.
participated in the program, both from the learning aspect, the learners and their managers or whoever was involved in the program.
Right.
Um, we ask questions like, will you apply the learning? What collateral learning did you pick up as well? Um, I think fundamentally is, did it contribute to results? What
Right.
changed? um, how are you seeing, if you set out with an objective in mind, and that's why you gave somebody the learning, then was that business objective met? Because you're not going to send somebody randomly for learning, right? You have to.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Right.
think it's how it's set up. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to come back to why you're doing the learning, and have you articulated what you want to see changed, and then
Okay.
have you explained to people transparently what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And has that change happened? I think that's cut through everything and go
Okay.
right there. But that setting things up like that to make it valuable takes a lot of time. And I've noticed that leaders are too busy doing business as usual in firefighting, and they grudge the time it takes to actually think through these things, because it's a lot of it is trial and error. You won't get it right, or you
Right.
won't get it perfect. But it's, if you want to really make learning stick and make it work, you actually have to set it up so that
Right.
you can lay out expectations and then watch and see what happens.
Okay. Okay. I like the point that you said about setting the stage for assessing, for feedback itself, right? It can't be a one-off incident. It has to be a regular process. So actually, that brings us to an interesting thought, which is even when looking at companies or recruiting companies who will participate in this survey, is to look at them who are doing certain amount of feedback sessions or evaluation that is currently going on, and then we also pitch in, so it becomes more kind of blends in with what is happening in the organization, right? I think that's something we have to keep in mind. That was an interesting thought for me. uh, so what any other aspect that we need to consider when it comes to learning? Sorry.
There's standards. There are standards that people evaluate learning by. What was the learning? Um, was people, the information, did it sink in? Can they answer the questions? All of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's technical learning, there's leadership, there's so many things that you look at,
Right.
and each program is evaluated on its own, differently by what it's going to deliver. But at the bottom bottom line is what changed.
Okay. Okay. So that's about specific learning you were talking about. What is it about the culture of learning that is that defined differently when we talk about an organization that is kind of steeped in the culture of learning? Is that different from having organization who give functional training at regular process at a regular period of time?
Of
Would
course.
there be a difference? Yeah. Yeah. So how would how would we kind of
I
evaluate
think
this
it's
culturally?
it's so much easier to have a learning plan and give lots and lots of learning,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
that's right.
But
Right.
I think a culture of learning is how engaged the leaders are in the people's learning, and
Okay.
that means setting it up. That means taking the time before you just assign learning, um, setting out times to explain to people why they have this developmental exercise, what's in
Hmm.
it for them, what's in it for the company, aligning it, and then the leaders themselves showing leading the way, constantly updating their skills. Leaders don't always need to go for things like workshops, but they can be doing things like networking, reading, talking to best practice experts, and coming back and sharing their learning. um,
Okay.
you know Always bringing it back, being vulnerable to how they learned, what they had, what how they had myths in their heads, which through learning were debunked, for example. So I think leaders need to be um, a lot more open and a lot more visible in the organization with respect to how they have learned.
Right. Another interesting thought you have is what you just said about having what are the myths in the organization. That would be very difficult for us to, as an outside setup, as an outsider company, to get that out of an organization, right? To
But
understand.
also, myths in the sense of you're a leader, you think you should know everything,
Mm,
um, but there were things that you thought you knew, which when you actually refreshed or sat through or read something new, and in the face of new evidence or in the face of new information, you changed that, unlearned um, those
right.
preconceived ideas that you had in your head about something, and then you did something different.
Okay. 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 Another aspect that we wanted to include in this program is to understand the individual motivation in terms of what drives them in terms of life itself. Whether it is about exploration of we're going to use Dr. Halen's model for this as a framework, and so it is to understand people's drive towards life. Is it exploration, or is it I fear therefore I control, or is it about establishing your role in the society, or is it about being a facilitator and being building a more harmonious society? So that are those are key paradigms defined by Dr. Halen, and we're going to use this model. And what do you think? I mean, is this something new? Have you all worked like this before to
Are you
understand the in? Yeah,
are you talking about people's motivation to learn?
yes. Motivation to life itself,
Right.
and therefore what motivation drives when they are at work. So try and link the two.
Of course. Of course, so many people have different reasons for why they do things, right? And it, there's in the, we know the theory, the intrinsic and extrinsic, and what's driving them, what
Right.
truly is driving them. But I think what truly drives a learning culture is and a growth mindset. Um, I love the paradox graph from the Harrison assessments. I don't know if you've heard of the Harrison assessment, but it talks about a balance between self acceptance and self improvement. And when
Right.
there's a balance between who I accept who I am, but I know I can be better,
Hmm.
then you have a balanced self esteem where your ego is not wanting to be right all the time,
Right.
and you're driven to learn.
Okay.
So you can have the opposite, where you don't accept who you are, so you're very self-critical, so you're constantly learning. A lot of people are like that. They
Right.
are their own worst enemies and their own worst critics, right? And so that drives them to learn, to be better. It's competitiveness. But they then emerge like somebody with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're hard to work with. They're also judgmental.
Okay.
But that is a good prognosis. They will still
Okay.
learn. The
Okay.
other flip is I accept who I am, but I'm not driven. I'm not
Mm.
very self-critical, and that's a hard one.
right,
where you'll find people who keep saying, Yeah, I know I'm like this, I'm disorganized, and yeah, I'll never change, I know," and it seems to me that they know really deeply about who they are, but then nothing happens after that. So there's different elements that, there's the openness to change, there's adaptability, there's, tolerance of something that's different, understanding there are gray areas. I mean, there's like a whole bunch of things that drive people to learn or not learn.
right, right. So at this stage, we are looking at your thoughts on what would work better. So what you said also was interesting. Which model is this? You said the self
I used to
acceptance one.
use in a past life the Harrison assessments, and
Okay,
it's a paradoxical model where both things can be true.
okay,
There's more than one thing that can be true in the same sentence. Like, for example, I'm okay with who I am, but I know I can be better.
okay, okay.
Rather than I need to learn, I need to learn, I need to learn. I'm so horrible, I need
Right.
to change.
Okay. So it could be I need to learn. I'm just connecting it to the theory that I was talking about. It could be I need to learn because I want to control the situation around me, or it could be that I learn because I want to explore the world around me. Right? It, so these are two different frameworks. As an HRS expert, which would you think is more relevant in an organization? Which of these two, or is there
I
room
think
for
I
both?
think you first have to unlearn that you can control the world around you. You can only control who
Right,
you are, right?
right,
So clearly, it's the latter. You want to learn because you want to explore, and you want
right,
to have a measure of control about what happens to you.
right.
So you're not a victim of the
Okay,
world around you, and then
okay,
that is a very good prognosis, because if you learn because you want to control the world around you, and then you find you can't, then what happens?
okay,
Will you stop
okay,
learning?
okay. No, I was also asking between the self acceptance and improvement paradigm that you talked about versus the one that I was talking about, Dr. Helen's model. You think there is room for both in an evaluation in for a culture of learning, or you is there one that we should choose? Any thoughts on that? We are still evaluating the framework that we need to accept or introduce in this process of assessing organizations. So, which of these framework would you kind of recommend or see as more
You
relevant?
what the one that says, I wish to learn because I want to control the world around me, or I wish to learn because I want to explore the world around me? Is that
So that is part of Dr. Helen's model.
yes?
I'm also, looking at what you said about the self acceptance and self improvement. So
Yeah,
that is a separate
it's
model.
one aspect. This is one aspect in a model that has 12 different paradoxes. It's one of the paradoxes. So there are other things that you look at as well, and it's not just a learning model. It's a how you work model. So there's many other aspects.
Aspects to it. Okay, okay,
So you would apply it um, when you're coaching somebody in how effectively that person wants, whether or not coaching, will they do something with it.
okay, okay. That's great. Okay. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, these were a couple of my questions. I don't want to take more of your time. Any
Oh,
other thoughts that we need to keep in mind to assess the culture of learning?
certainly, it's how, to what extent leaders are involved in setting the stage,
Yes. Yeah. Talked about their engagement, right?
and
That's
their
critical.
engagement, and their building a downline of people
Mm-hmm.
who are similarly
Okay.
passionate
Okay.
about learning.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks a lot, Debbie. Thanks very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Jay-Z. That's interesting work you're doing.
Thank you,
Thank
JC.
you.
Interesting
Thank
to see
you.
how it turns out.
Yeah,
Yes.
we hope with all your help we should do fine.
No, and
Thank
there were
you.
some great insights there from Debbie. And I think JC, just
Yeah.
to kind of clarify a few things, when you're speaking about what we can take from the Harrison's model or any other
Right.
model, I think we can look at all the best practices that can be included in our study, right? And I
Right.
think one of the things we should include is about, do leaders get feedback through NPS from their direct
Yes.
reports? because
Yeah.
net promoter score is what I do
We
in
learn.
all my training and coaching programs. And then
Right.
that culture of feedback there,
Hmm.
not because it's formalized, but because it's an informal culture of feedback. Is that
Right.
informal culture of feedback there within the organization, where I kept hearing Debbie call people leaders, but I call them top management, because leaders is not a title or a position. And that's why I just wanted to kind of share this few insights. I always say great parents make great leaders, right? Because as a great parent or a great leader, you don't tell people what to do. You help them to think better and improve their thinking so that they can come up with the solutions. Because if you're creating all the solutions, you're far from being a leader, right? You will not even become a good manager, right? And leaders treat everyone as leaders, which means that the guy who just joined us as the intern is a leader, because she or he has to lead her own life. And how we measure leadership is not that because you have followers or team members. We say, have you created more leaders? So will the leader emerge from within, which means tomorrow if a top slot is vacant and you need to fill it up, will the person emerge from within the organization, or will you have to look outside? Because if you have to look outside, the top management team, the HR and the learning development team has failed the organization. Yes, if I need a Chinese guy because I need a Chinese speaking guy, then I have to look for someone from China, right? He may not emerge from within India. But
Well, you never know. So
yeah,
you're going the ENI thing, right? If it's only language that you're particular about, then yes, it can be had from many people.
yeah. So
Do not
that's so no, what I'm
necessarily.
saying is that mostly it should emerge from within, but there may be times when you have to look outside, but
So
that's
you're
the
absolutely
balance.
right on the succession planning and the development for it, right? Because if you are laying developmental plans that are well articulated, and then after that you have to
Right.
go outside,
Very true.
yeah, you need to look deeply at that process.
Yeah,
But it's a bigger
and there's
it is a bigger process. There's many other elements
absolutely. And there
involved.
should be a good right rationale for that,
Yeah.
right? Because organizations are struggling right now. Infosys, for example, they never had the leadership pipeline. So they bring in superstars from outside, and the organization ecosystem and the people reject them. So you had Vikas Sikka who came in from SAP. He didn't last there for long. I give the current guy also another year or so, because the organization is not accepting you, because the leaders have to emerge from within. Because that's what great organizations do. It's called the leadership pipeline. So if you've not created that, you fail the organization. And I always explain this with one simple statement, which is there in my book. I say, management is very important because it's all about processes, systems, policies, etc. If you don't have good management, you will die today, but because it's day-to-day functioning. But most organizations are overmanaged and underled, right? And leadership is about creating that leadership pipeline. And because you have not created that leadership pipeline, it's a matter of time before your demise, right? And that's I think where many organizations are realizing that they need to build the leadership pipeline. So thank you for those thoughts, Debbie. And I completely agree with you. I always say feedback is the multivitamin of champions for continuous improvement. And that's exactly what growth mindset is all about, popularized by Carol Dweck. And, what I have noticed as one of the biggest deficits of the world is self-esteem. People have very poor esteem about themselves. That is exactly what marketers play on, right? Trying to sell you the next big car or the next big.
And especially social media now, it's really not
Yes,
done
it's at
anybody any good.
all-time low, and it's completely, related to what you said, the self-acceptance and the self-improvement. That I accept myself the way I am. I cannot be perfect because perfection is the biggest lie of the world.
Be better. Yes.
I have to kaizen, continuous improvement, because if and most people, because they have a fancy degree from some Ivy League institute, they think they've achieved perfection. Therein lies the folly, right? So the concept is continuous improvement, kaizen, Eastern concept, right? And we don't do that because continuous improvement means continuous learning. And just to kind of clarify one more thought, in any organization, learning and development culture starts with the guy right on top saying that I don't know anything, so I need to learn. And it's what you said, Debbie, that does that person understand her or his vulnerability? And that's what we've covered in our Mojo Inspirator learning, where we actually kind of teach, go beyond the physical intelligence. We focus on the five intelligences: mental, emotional, and spiritual, and of course moral, which most people completely ignore. So managers are giving the wrong messages to people. Just get the job done by hook or crook. Hey, you told them to do something wrong. You told them to do something fraudulent.
It's
So
totally
that's
wrong.
where the
And people
moral
get
health,
rewarded. Yes.
and that's where that's where the moral of the organizations goes low. Most leaders don't have emotional intelligence. They lack in empathy, right? There is a study. I don't know if you've seen this series called Mind Hunter. In Mind Hunter, one of the learnings which the FBI learned is many CEOs and achievers who like going to the top, they have the same traits like a sociopath or a psychopath,
Yep.
right? So it's like, success at any cost, right?
Narcissistic.
And people don't realize this.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and people don't realize this, that vulnerability, we think, if you see the in the Mojo inspirator learning, the trigger learning right here is vulnerability. And vulnerability is weakness in the dictionary, but in the human space it is power. It helps you to keep
Yes.
an open mind that I don't know anything, because if you think you know everything, you're far from being enlightened. You can start an ashram like Sadhguru, right? Because he knows everything, we don't, right? And that's why he talks with his foot in
That's
his
true.
mouth half the time. So so you know talk I mean, he actually went on record and said something. It just my Facebook just threw it up today and said that, when a woman has twins, she produces two different kinds of milk. I'm like, come on. And people listen to this guy. Anyway, so thank you so much, Debbie. I mean, you completely clarified a lot of things for us about what should go into the study. Great insights over there. If there are any closing insights that you want to share with us before we ask you to sing the next number,
Are
because
you sure we
everybody is
have
waiting
time?
to
It's
listen to you sing.
11:15. It's 11:15.
Yes, if you want to, we are fine. We can listen in.
I'm sure I'm okay if your viewers are okay. It's we've gone
Yeah,
over
yeah, yeah,
about
absolutely.
2 minutes. No, I don't have
Everyone's
much.
writing on Facebook that they loved your songs. Yeah.
Sweet. I don't know. I don't have much to share. I think we had quite a lengthy and insightful chat. I loved all the sharing and your thoughts. So thank you so much, Jerry and Jay-Z.
Thank you for enriching our learning, Debbie.
So
Over to you, and for the last song. On,
okay.
we won't
Well,
let you
so
go without that.
okay. Well, it's my pleasure. Um, so this next one I actually wrote. So strangely enough, I think I mentioned it earlier. Um,
Mhm,
let me just find this. I wrote. I got into an argument on Facebook because I had an opinion about what was happening in India, and then
mhm,
I was told I got attacked by some people, um, super nationalists, who said that I shouldn't have that opinion because I didn't live there anymore. Um, and this world is so small. We all have opinions about what's happening everywhere, right? And we
right.
weigh in too, and it makes a difference. So I said, I'm really not going to persuade you and say anything
It's a
more.
waste of time. Yeah.
So I'm going to write a song instead. So that's what I did.
Very
So
nice.
here,
In fact, now that you said that, I face that a lot because, again, I have a Catholic name. So even though I stay in India and have declined offers to go overseas, they still attack me also, right? Because I have a name called Jerry Almeida. So I've become the rice bag convert. But we should not let them affect us, because the same, there's a very old saying that patriotism, and I'll add, and nationalism is the last refuge of the scoundrels. And most of these guys don't even know what Hinduism means, and that Hindu is actually a default word, because the original concept is called Sanatan Dharma, the path of righteousness and truth. And all these guys are far from following the truth, or because they are actually following a liar. And I say that on record. Thank you, Debbie, for endorsing that. And over to you for the song.
yeah, most I actually think that Hinduism is the philosophy of embracing um, all,
True.
everything,
Absolutely.
that the Creator made, and multiple
Absolutely.
gods and all of it, right?
It's about the
So,
God in every living being.
and
Absolutely.
that is my experience of my friends. So anyway, so here you go.
Yes, over to you.
If I spoke of violence, would you listen? If I sang of the broken, would it capture your heart? If I wrote of all the things we take for granted, but only value when they're torn apart, would you feel the pain? Would you turn up my sound? Or would you shut me down and drown me out? Didn't happen in my backyard. If I left the country, commented from afar. If I didn't live there, but still was scarred, would my voice make a difference? And would you feel the pain? Would you turn up my sound? Or would you shut me down and drown me out? Turn off the airwaves, shut down transmissions, be like the three monkeys. Turn off the airwaves, shut down transmission, hide like the three monkeys. But in the forest, if the trees still fall and the air gets stale, will that be all? Will that be all? If I stop speaking, would you love me more? Would my views be valid if I move next door? Should I speak out or simply shut my mouth? Choose an easy peace over right and justice. And would you feel the pain? And would you turn up my sound? Or would you shut me down and drown me out? And drown me out. Ooh, and drown me out. And drown me out. I'm done.
So
Are you-
beautiful, Debbie, and thank you so
Yeah.
much. Don't let them shut you down. Keep speaking out because this country belongs to you as much as to anybody else. And we have to speak out against wrongs which are happening in our country, right? And in the world, because we are all connected by, like I always say, we are all connected as human beings with one big umbilical cord. So what happens to any one person as injustice anywhere in the world is an injustice towards
Well,
everybody who belongs to the human race.
COVID has proved that, right?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you for making the time and
Thank
to
you.
join us so late in the night and great insights, very valuable learning and ideas for action over there. Thank you and all the best with your
Thanks,
musical
Debbie.
journey. And we would love to have you as a participant in one of our Magnificent Seven events, maybe where you can come and sing and also share some thoughts on human development and human potential.
Well, you know, right? I'm not shy about either singing or sharing.
Right, absolutely. Great. And thank you for all the candor and thank you for speaking so candidly and I think that's required in the current times. So thank you, JC.
Thank
Any
you, Debbie. That was lovely again. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Beautiful song. Thank you.
beautiful song,
Thanks,
yeah.
Jerry.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
folks.
Debbie, and
Bye.
have a great night, evening and good night. Thank you.
Sure.
Good night. Bye.